Hi, Zizaran here with another League starter for 327 Keepers of the Flame, and this is Spectres on a Necromancer, and this is going to be what I am League starting. This is a collab with Helm, and it is a very highly detailed guide so you're in for a treat. Another good thing about this build, it is hardcore viable and it is SSF viable. There's nothing like crazy rare for this build, which makes it a great starter. Another cool thing to this build this patch is we are using Spectres. I really want to experiment with Hydras now that you no longer lose them each time they die. Hydras are very squishy, but I think you can make a pretty cool map clearing build with that. So as normal, we're using Path of Building, a third-party software for this. It's very important that you have it. We have a video in the comments, so explains POB. You can follow along with that. And Helmbreaker has a similar system to our other builds where it is like step by step, so it's very easy to see where you're going to put points next. And there are loadouts which syncs up the skills, items, etc. So we also have like some different suggestions for hardcore here. And another thing to note about this build is you don't really need to use that many different buttons on this skill. Minions are obviously something that quite easily ends up being something you can just run around with, which makes it, if you've like broken an arm or anything like that, great build choice for that. Both Righteous Fire and this is. Same with skills here, you can see that like you level up with Rolling Magma, then you switch to Summon Raging Spirits, and Absolution is a great way to level. SRS / Absolution, they're both like a bit of a preference thing. If you really want to level with SRS, which is what I'm likely going to be doing, I might try Absolution, but we'll see. You can use his max roll Poison SRS League starter and level with that. That should be fine. That's likely what I'm doing myself. You have loads of different setups here, and then you'll be switching to Spectres whenever you have... You do need like some plus Spectres. So obviously we have the shield from Katarina is really nice, and Katarina should be very, very easy to access. And then once you can get it, Dark Monarch, which drops from the memory bosses. We don't know if this has been moved to the Uber or not. I'm assuming it hasn't, but you know, you never know. And you can see in some of the other gear as well, like it's pretty easy to follow. And you have different examples with like if you switch with a Bitter Dream. Obviously this is like a 9 link with Bone Chill, Hypothermia, Ice Bite, etc. And here you have the Bitterbind point. This is the Katarina shield, and you want to unveil +1 Spectres on that. You can get +1 Spectre from minion nodes in Delve, and then there's a trick where if the only two stats is +1 Spectre and the other stat is evasion, obviously you can't transfer the evasion stat to the Twilight Regalia, so then you're just hoping for the 50-50 hit for the base type, and then it transfers over. So there's some pseudo-deterministic stuff there. And yeah, there's like loads of different min-max setups here, and you can get crazy damage when you invest hard into this build. And the Forged Frostbearers, they're just really nice, like all-around Spectre. They come from the Verisium vein, and there probably will be new Spectres that will be options as well this patch, but either way, there's just so many options for which to play different builds. And as you can see, like there's so many different setups here. A thing that I want to do, especially for hardcore, is hopefully do a pretty early energy shield swap. And when I was looking at it, I had basically 10 to 11k ES very early. You end up dropping this Commander of Darkness, which is a bit of a pain when it comes to resistance stuff. You will have to have really solid gear for that. But what it lets you do is it lets you pick up the Katarina Bloodline, and that has, I can't remember if it's 10 or 12% global defense per Spectre, but then once you have the Dark Monarch, that's like 100 plus global defense, so it gives you like 3 to 5k ES depending on how solid your gear is. I think that'll be a blast. And then obviously you have the other Senses here. You get Life Leech, ES Leech, depending on whether you are using Ghost Reaver or not. So whether you're at the life stage or the ES stage, you are having a decent amount of recovery. I'm going to be playing with Bone Offering, but obviously you can use Flesh Offering as well for better clear. The absolute best starter is probably going to be something like Earth Shatter, but not everybody wants to play that, and I know my community would probably prefer that I didn't play Earth Shatter or Ones, because 80% will be playing that. So I think this is just going to be a really fun starter. If you go to notes here as well, there are loads of different examples of what different Spectres to use. So when you have 10 Spectres, you'll be using only 7 of the Forged Frostbearers. for damage. But then you use a Carnage Chieftain, which gives Frenzy charges, Perfect Forest Warrior, which gives Onslaught and Cull, Perfect Guardian Turtle, which gives you Determination. And the really nice thing now about these two is they've changed the way Spectres work now, and you don't lose them. It's not a permanent loss when this thing gets guided. And then here, once you actually get the 12 Spectres, you just get 2 more Frostbearers. And there are a bunch of notes here as well. And Helmbreaker has a super detailed max roll guide for this, so if you really need hand-holding, he's got you. It's super, super detailed, will cover everything. And I am also going to be playing this at launch on Hardcore. Also remember, for Spectres, there's such a big Spectre community, so global 6666, people will be able to like share Spectres and stuff like that. And early on, you can use Frost Auto Scouts in Refinery Tunnel Act 9, or a Heist Tunnel or Repository Contract, but they're not as strong, but you have those as an option. So for bandits, you have Major God is Lunaris. You can swap to Solaris for bossing, and then Minor God is Critical. The bandit, kill all, but always remember, helping later on day 1 is never a mistake. It's just 20 regrets later on to respec it. So shouldn't really be an issue. And as you can see, even on a pretty low budget, it gets like 5 million damage. You get really decent mitigation, and obviously you have the sustain from the leech. So I'm very excited to play this at launch. Maybe we get even more crazy Spectres that we don't know about yet. Definitely keep this build in mind, and it's such a like detailed version from Helmbreaker as well. He put a lot of effort into this. So make sure you check out, he has a lot of different builds as well. Definitely like the max roll minion guy. Check it out, and hope you guys like it. So Helmbreaker, what are some easy mistakes to make on this build or downsides?
Mistakes you can do is when you're racing the Spectres and you still have Bone Offering in your trigger one, you could end up destroying the corpses. So you want to remove Bone Offering before you raise any Spectres. And to raise Spectres, it helps holding down the A button, because then you can see the name of the Spectre you're targeting. Another thing you need to do before racing is to remove Spell Echo, because if you have Spell Echo, you'll end up raising 2 corpses, and you could end up raising something else from your Desecrate pool.
Is there any map mods that this build should really avoid more than anything?
You should really avoid Elemental Reflect, because all the damage your Spectres do is elemental damage. And then you're using Purity of Elements, so if you're not highly overcapped on res, you don't want reduced non-curse effect. And then there's like no mana regen, no life regen. You can work around it, but it can be dangerous, and the build has endurance charges, so avoid map mods where your enemies steal endurance charges.
Yeah. So again, the Helmbreaker's minion build for this launch. Check it out, and he has a lot of different minion builds. Super strong, so much detail in his max roll builds as well. So make sure you give him some love. And I am going to be playing SRS into Spectres on launch myself on Hardcore, so hopefully we have a smooth start with that. And either way, thank you guys so much for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.